There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. The only item on the order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. The first question has been asked by the Honorable Gungubele. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable members, various allegations have been made in the public domain, and much evidence has also been published about undue influence of some people who it has been found may well have had undue influence with regard to a number of institutions of government and state in relation to non-transparent appointments as well as procurement decisions. The allegations are clearly a matter of grave concern to many South Africans. State capture, it can be said in whatever form it takes, is abhorrent, and it is something that we all as South Africans should not and cannot tolerate. Among the urgent steps we need to take in this regard is to establish a judicial commission of inquiry so that this commission of inquiry can probe the claims of corporate capture of state institutions. Now, President Jacob Zuma, who is the head of state and head of government, has the powers to establish such a commission in terms of Section 84F of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, and he has indicated that he is not opposed to the establishment of a commission of inquiry, and as we speak now, he is in the process of consulting his legal advisors to find ways of giving effect to this proposal. It is in the interests of all South Africans that the commission should be set up as quickly as possible so that all those who have evidence can present their evidence to a competent body, and those allegedly implicated should also have an opportunity to respond to the allegations that are being made against them. At the same time, it is critical that the law enforcement agencies give these allegations their full attention. We welcome the announcement by the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation that they have already begun investigations in these matters. The veracity of the claims needs to be established. Where crimes have been committed, those responsible must be prosecuted and they must be brought to book. One of the important pillars of our democracy is this whole concept of the rule of law. It is important that South Africa should be a country that is regulated by the rule of law, and in matters like these, the law should be allowed to take its course without any fear or favor. Alongside this work, government is paying specific attention to strengthening the governance, the financial management, and the functioning of state-owned enterprises. The Interministerial Committee on SOEs, on the reform of SOEs, that is is engaged in the implementation of various cabinet decisions that were taken last year. These include the adoption of a guideline for remuneration of key officials in state-owned enterprises, as well as the appointment of directors. And in this regard of state-owned enterprises, we are looking also at how we can bring the private sector to participate through a framework, particularly when it comes to infrastructure delivery. The IMC has also been overseeing a consultation process on a guide for the appointment of boards and the various executive officers, and to ensure consistency and transparency so as to reduce any form of opportunity for manipulation or bad influence. Consultation is also underway on a new government shareholder policy, which will result in an overarching SOE legislation, which will inevitably come to this Parliament. It is expected that this policy will improve our oversight on SOEs. It will also ensure more effective deployment and management of public resources and achieve better coordination with regards to the commercial as well as the social mandates of our state-owned enterprises. Honorable members, together, these measures should reduce the potential for state-owned enterprises to be captured by corporate or private interests. However, it is essential that we attend to the allegations that are currently in the public domain with the purpose and determination if we are to restore the confidence of our state-owned enterprises. These state-owned enterprises play a critical role in the economic life of our country, and therefore we would like to safeguard their integrity and make sure that they operate as well as they should to advance the interests of all South Africans. I thank you.
The Honorable Gungubele.
Speaker, I appreciate a helpful response by the Deputy President, but however, there is a view, Honorable Deputy President, that the pronouncement by our movement on the state capture and Judicial Commission of Inquiry is a ploy to make it general or confuse the public protector's recommendation or render the process an endless one. What would be the comment of the Deputy President to that?
The Honorable the Deputy President.
I am not aware of any commentary that would make this whole process, and particularly the public protector's intervention through her report, an endless one. This process is supposed to be a focused process, and the important part of it is that once you appoint a Judicial Commission of Inquiry, you're actually elevating the investigation of this whole issue of state capture. You're putting it in the hands of an entity or a body that is both professional, that becomes very focused, and that is independent, that will be able to manage the investigation of all this and come out with the truth. And obviously the terms of reference of this commission will guide what a Judicial Commission of Inquiry will do, and we hope and trust that the terms of reference will be focused as well as broad enough to make sure that the whole issue of state capture is properly analyzed and investigated in all its ramifications, and make sure that the truth in the end does come out. And those who've been fingered should be able, in a very fair manner, to go and give evidence, to explain themselves, and that commission will be able to clear people's names, and if others are not cleared, then very obviously the consequences of the law should be able to take place. So the governing party, in my view, is not trying to make this process long or complicated. In fact, it wants it to be as focused as possible and to happen as quickly as possible. Now, the good thing is that this Judicial Commission of Inquiry proposal has not received any rejection from any quarter. From the President right throughout, it is supported, and all that remains to be done is the modalities of having it appointed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President. We from the ACDP welcome the commitment to fight state capture, and particularly the second leg of your answer. Whilst we appreciate the Commission of Inquiry, there is obviously a degree of urgency where there are allegations of money leaving the country, and that's why we welcome the fact of the Hawks and the NPA also investigating allegations of criminality. As we know, the Public Protector's report also referred allegations of criminality to these units. However, Deputy President, we are concerned about the allegations from the board chairperson of PRASA, Mr. Papa Molefe, who is now going to court, where he alleges that the Hawks did not investigate allegations of corruption over a period of 2 years. And I would ask you, Deputy President, how then, whilst we appreciate the need to urgently investigate criminality now and to investigate and prosecute, how can we ensure that the Hawks are not themselves captured in as much as they do not investigate the serious allegations? There is so overwhelming and compelling prima facie evidence that should be investigated and, when necessary, prosecuted. Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If we live, as we do as South Africans, in a country that upholds and respects and embraces the rule of law, we should not be concerned that any state institution should act unfairly and should act outside the parameters of the law. And if, for instance, the chairperson of PRASA believes that the work that should have been done by the Hawks has not been done, he is fully entitled to approach the judiciary in our country, which is an independent institution, to get a declaratory order, to get some form of justice, and to have the matter properly addressed. So anybody, from a lowly citizen in our country to whoever else, they have that opportunity and the right. But what is important is that the rule of law should be the real lodestar that all of us follow and focus our eyes on. And in this regard, I would say, if anybody has any doubt about any state institution acting outside the parameters of the law, the judiciary is there to apply the rule of law. And in this regard, if the Hawks or any entity is sleeping on the job, the judiciary is there to help guide us and to help point the way forward. Thank you.
The Honorable Hlophe.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, when I was listening to you, I just want to ask you a straightforward question. Do you support the Commission of Inquiry as the Deputy President or not?
The Honorable the President, Deputy President.
Yes, I do. I have gone public, and I'll tell you the reason why I support it. I support a commission of inquiry into this matter because there are all these allegations that are being made all around. And truth be told, if there are allegations like these, whoever is affected should welcome the opportunity to go before an independent body and go and explain themselves, to clear their name, and to put their case before such a judicial inquiry. And I say everyone whose name has been bandied around or mentioned, and even those who have not been mentioned, and anybody who has any evidence should welcome the idea of going to that commission of inquiry and presenting themselves. So it is for that reason that I support it. And the other important reason, of course, it is important that those who have been mentioned should clear their names. I think it is important that they should have that opportunity to go to that commission to clear their names. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mainir.
Speaker, my question is whether the Deputy President ultimately agrees that the best way to prevent the manifestation of state capture is, as the Honourable Gungubele himself so eloquently put it a few months ago, for President Jacob Zuma to step down. The Deputy President knows the answer to the question is yes. We know the answer to the question is yes. Why does the Deputy President just not make it easy on himself and say yes? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
You know, so if I know the answer to the question, why do you bother to ask the question? I think you should not be unfair to yourself. The Commission of Inquiry, as I said, and I don't want to repeat myself, is a great opportunity that all of us as South Africans should grab. And those whose names have been mentioned should also grab to go to the Commission and explain their actions or lack of action. And it affects everyone. It would affect me as well. It would affect my colleagues as well. It would affect anyone should have grabbed the opportunity to go to that commission and go and explain themselves. Now, that in itself has everything to do with clearing the decks, has everything to do with making sure that we put this whole thing of state capture behind us and we get on with the process of moving South Africa forward. That is the important part.
We now come to question number 20, asked by the Honorable Van der Merwe. The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The issue of violence against women is clearly an affront to all South Africans. Apart from its devastating impact on the individuals that are affected and their families and their friends, it undermines our effort to build a caring society in which the rights and the dignity of all are respected and upheld. If we are to succeed in overcoming gender-based violence, we need to understand and effectively address its causes, and we also need to implement measures to reduce the potential for gender-based violence and ensure proper support for survivors and others as well. The National Development Plan aspires to create a society where the women and the young girls in our country can walk freely in the streets of our nation, and children can play safely outside. The Integrated Plan of Action to Fight Gender-Based Violence 2013 to 2018 therefore aims to transform attitudes. It also aims to transform practices and behavior. It aims to ensure better access to support services for women and children at risk and to provide long-term care and support and empowerment services for survivors of violence. The plan aims to ensure that women and children are better protected from violence through a strengthened system with supportive legislative, policy, and institutional frameworks. that has adequate resources, as well as organizational capacity, and also it must have comprehensive evidence-based information. Work is currently underway to review the integrated plan of action, taking into consideration lessons that have been learned and recommendations from the diagnostic review that was done. As part of a broader campaign to empower adolescent girls and young women, the She Conquers campaign works to reduce new HIV infections. It also focuses on teenage pregnancies, school dropout rates, and sexual and gender-based violence. Government has also launched the National Dialogues on Violence Against Women, which are a mode of engagement with communities to find the reason for violence against women and children and develop common solutions. The respective ministers in the executive have reported to this House on progress made in our programs to address violence against women and children. These engagements with the National Assembly have helped to inform the conceptualization of some of these programs as well as the campaigns. The struggle against violence against women cannot be left to government alone, or indeed to the public representatives that are in this House. It must be embraced by all South Africans, men in particular, to ensure that we act decisively to end this scourge of violence against women and children. I thank you.
The Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you very much to the Deputy President, and I really appreciate your answer. But Deputy President, as things stand at the moment, there is really no political will to address gender-based violence, and I'll give you examples why. In 2012, President Zuma launched the National Council Against Gender-Based Violence, but then afforded it no funding, so it was scrapped. Now we've got government's integrated plan of action to fight gender-based violence, and again, no resources was allocated to it, wasn't costed, and so it's achieved no success. And clearly, government is not serious about funding gender-based or fighting gender-based violence if you do not fund your noble intentions. And in fact, this means that government is all talk and no action. And this is simply not good enough. In the meantime, too many lives are lost. Women who go to police stations are turned away. And in general, the system is failing our women. So the part of my question was, can you list some of the successes? And clearly, there are no successes to list. So yes, Deputy President, important for our communities to rise up, for our boys and our men to rise up and fight back. But they cannot do so if our government is not leading by example. So my question to you, Deputy President, as leader of government business, what will you be doing to hold to account ministers who are failing our women and our children? And I think we need to start with the Minister of Social Development. And finally, it's very clear that this fight needs political will, it needs political leadership, and it needs resources. And can you give us the undertaking, because we know we won't be getting that from President Zuma, that you will take the lead in this fight, and that our cabinet will declare the onslaught against women and children a national crisis, and that you will finally give it the resources and attention it requires. I thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable van der Merwe, you'll be pleased to know that the cabinet has been at work addressing this matter and has spent a considerable amount of time, and ministers through an IMC have also been engaged in finding solutions, embarking on actions that are going to reduce violence against women and children. Now, clearly, you are coming up with really laudable proposals. Political leadership is necessary. I could not fault you on that, and I would agree with you completely. Funding is also necessary. I will not fault you on that, and I agree with you completely. Now, clearly, much as we are acting under very difficult economic constraints at the moment, this fight against violence is a fight that we must fund. We must find money for it and make sure that it is properly funded. But at the same time, the work that we do to execute this will and this resolve that we have is done through a plethora of government departments. For instance, the South African Police Service, they do it on a dedicated basis, and they are rolling out offices in various police stations, which are going to make it much more conducive for victims of violence to be able to be properly counseled, to be properly cared for, and given the dignity that they deserve. Now, that is being done through the SAPS budget. Similarly, social welfare also has a budget dedicated to caring for victims of violence, and indeed the Ministry of Women, and throughout the various departments of government, the work is getting done. Now, clearly, we need to double or redouble our resolve. We need to strengthen the various interventions that we are making, and this has been made very, very clear. I belong to the governing party. The governing party itself has taken this up as a major campaign, and it is in the process of rolling it out throughout the country. And this campaign, in the end, should know no party affiliation. It should run right across various parties, and all of us should engage in it. And as we engage in it, we should be working alongside government and insisting that government should strengthen its own interventions. Where interventions are weak, we should be speaking out and say, we would like you to strengthen this part and this part. So you and I are completely ad idem on this. We will want to lead this campaign with great determination and with strength, and I'm glad to hear that you and a number of people in your party are going to be part of this campaign going forward. So I thank you dearly. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mente.
Enkosi Speaker, Deputy President, during Ngotu campaigns, we saw you committed, even drinking Sokambeya there. I would like to see the same commitment to this cause. And I want to put it to you that what you are telling us, you are not as half committed as you are saying. Recently, yourself and the Minister of Health, you attended a SANEC meeting. In that SANEC meeting, you wanted to leave before time. And the meeting diverted from the agenda, which is gender-based violence and HIV and AIDS, into you either staying or leaving. And that's not commitment to the cause that we are in today. The violence against women is escalating at the levels that are very high, and we want protection. You are leader of governance. The ministers must learn from you. When you commit yourself, they will also be committed. But if you half commit yourself, they will not do the same.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I explained very well my reason for leaving the SANEC meeting. That was well explained. And let me immediately say the majority of people who were there were very understanding for the reason for my departure. Now, only one person raised an issue, and I said I'd like to have a discussion with her. And in all the SANEC events and activities, interventions, the Minister of Health and myself have been giving leadership. We've also been following the leadership of the various leaders that we've got in SANEC. Because in SANEC, we work as a team. Nearly everyone who is there provides leadership, and they are leaders in their own right in their various organizations. So when one of them is absent, there are many others who take the lead. When I am absent, the minister takes the lead. When he's absent, I take the lead. So the point that you are putting forward is well made, but my departure from the meeting that we had of SANEC should not really be a reflection on the weakness of my determination, and it can't even be equated to drinking umqombothi. You know, you can't reduce into engaka ebaluleke kangaka uyi-equate nokuphuza umqombothi. Umqombothi is the least of the important things. The issue here is that we should all get engaged in this process. And I want to see myself in the street together with you, walking side by side, working together, executing our commitment. That's where I want to meet you, right as Straten. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, there is another very bleak side of the story which is linked to gender-based violence. Just recently, at a place around Vryheid and Ngutu, a certain girl had to escape from a place where there are foreign nationals who take girls into the house, and these girls are raped, and after that, they are trafficked to certain places abroad. And it is alleged that each girl will cost about 15,000. And there is another sketch that is there. Well, the provincial government welfare department has intervened. But what is it that can be done from your side, your Deputy President, to prevent such a pandemic, such a scourge as well?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kubisa. I mean, these types of incidents should really be publicized, they should be talked about, they should also be reported. It is when we have an active citizenry through various formations that exist amongst our people. From the governing party side, we have called for street committees to be established so that every street throughout the length and the breadth of our country should have people who are actively involved in engaging in the task of ensuring that there is no violence against women and children. And if there are such committees and such structures, we will then be able to prevent activities like those that are clearly criminal, that are clearly not excusable. You can't even begin to excuse actions such as the kidnapping of young girls and having them raped and then being sold into, say, prostitution or outside the country. That cannot be tolerated. But that information needs to come forward because our law enforcement agencies are on the lookout for perpetrators like those. Those perpetrators belong behind bars. They should not be let loose amongst our people. They should not be let loose amongst young girls. They should actually be arrested, prosecuted, and sent to prison. So we call on our people to take action through their various structures in communities and make sure that we act together with our law enforcement agencies and rid our country of this scourge. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, for elaborating on that question by Honorable van der Merwe and subsequent questions. Given your delegated responsibilities as Deputy President and in your engagement with communities and stakeholders in some of the forums that you belong to or you're heading, how can these engagement with them ensure that there's buy-in, there's education, there's commitment of these stakeholders and communities in fighting the scourge of the gender-based violence and ensuring that human rights for all are respected and upheld? Thank you, Mr. President.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The best way is to never stop talking about this matter. never stop taking action against this scourge and highlight the importance of upholding the dignity of women and young girls. But through the various structures, such as the one I referred to, the She Conquers campaign, it is focused on young women and adolescent girls. Much as its genesis or its center point is HIV/AIDS, it also deals with issues of gender-based violence. It also deals with, say, the economic disempowerment of women. It also deals with poverty issues, because quite a bit of these scourges are really driven by poverty and the inequality that continues to persist in our country. It also deals with issues of education, also deals with issues of lack of jobs. So a combination of all these problems are then addressed through a campaign like She Conquers. And indeed, there are quite a number of other campaigns that are being led by various departments in government. The important thing is that all of us as leaders, we must not let up. We must continue to talk about this matter, and particularly focus on certain special groups in society, men and young men, because those are the ones that we need to reach out to, so that they fully understand that respect of women, ensuring that we respect their dignity and their human rights, should be the order of the day in our country. So if we all spread the message, each one of us as leaders, we will then be able to reach out to those people and change behavior, change the thinking, and change or raise the level of consciousness of as many South Africans as we possibly can. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 21, asked by the Honorable Advocate Alberts, FF+. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, the challenge of ensuring that employees in our country in both the public and the private sector are adequately cared for in relation to retirement is currently confronting not only our country, but a number of countries around the world. Due to advances in healthcare, many people who are pensioners are tending to live longer than a generation ago. And this then necessitates that the process of looking after them and having a comfortable retirement then comes to the fore, because the healthcare that is now available to many people enables them to live a lot longer. Many countries have aging populations. South Africa has the additional challenge of widespread poverty and also is burdened by a high level of unemployment and inequality, an inequality that is racialized for that matter, with significant historical discrepancies in pension arrangements for black and white South Africans. As a result, the majority of pensioners in this country rely on state pensions. With respect to the question posed by the honorable member, I'm informed that the pension provisions for employees of state-owned enterprises are protected in terms of the rules of the funds, and the funds are also responsibly managed. I'm aware of long-standing challenges with regards to pensioners that are part of the Transport Pension Fund and the Transnet Second Defined Benefit Fund. I'm also aware that a class action has been instituted on this matter, which involves a number of people who are on pension. Whether or not it is heard in our courts depends on legal challenges to it that I understand have been referred to the Constitutional Court. The Department of Public Enterprises is the one department that is best placed to give answers on this matter and also an update on the litigation to which Transnet particularly is a party to. Needless to say, it is vitally important that this matter is resolved without any further delay, meaning that as quickly as possible, as it affects the living conditions of many elderly people who are anxious, in great need, and need this matter to be resolved as quickly as possible. I thank you.
The Honorable Alberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President, for your answer. Many of the state pensioners are quite concerned that there might be state capture processes in their funds at the move in the moment. And one of the problems that we have is that the state pension funds are not transparent as private funds, for they do not fall under the Pension Funds Act and therefore do not have access to the pension funds adjudicator. So whenever they have troubles in their own funds and they cannot resolve it, they have to go the route of litigation, which is very expensive, obviously, and for impoverished pensioners, it is really not possible to do that. So my question is whether the Deputy President will consider implementing or changing the laws in such a way that the pension funds adjudicator will also have jurisdiction over all state pension funds, irrespective of all funds, irrespective of whether they are private or public. And then secondly, to ensure that the situation that has occurred in the Transnet funds do not happen again. For most of those pensioners are earning less, or actually an average of 2,500 Rand a month, which is less than the amount that you basically set for a basic income. And I don't think that anybody can survive on that. So you need to have a look at that, and I would really appreciate it if you could consider changing the laws to protect the funds and to make it more, the state funds more accountable in future. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. This is a proposal, not so much a question, because a proposal to consider whether this, the pension fund adjudicator could have jurisdiction on all pension funds, including state pension funds. So it's a matter, Madam Speaker, which I'm sure can be looked at. I have not applied my mind to it, and it certainly is a proposal that has been put on the table, and maybe it can be elucidated a little bit more in writing so that we can then evaluate its efficacy and whether it is possible to have such a proposal drafted into a piece of legislation. Because I will immediately say that it is important that people who are on pension should have a sense that their pension funds are protected, are well looked after, and that they are being dealt with and treated fairly. And clearly, if there's a pensioner who, through the pension that they get as a result of their past employment, are getting, say, 2,500, that needs to be examined in the light of the pension fund rules and the pension funds in their own pension. So it's a matter that I would not be able to give an adjudication on. And you refer to the basic income. We refer to it as the national minimum wage, which, yes, if a pension fund that some people get is 2,500, would be less than the national minimum wage that we put in place. So all those matters need to be looked at. And so it's quite a lot of work that can be done, but I welcome a positive proposal that can be examined and taken forward. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mazzoni.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, there's been a lot of speculation in media reports about the safety of the Government Employee Pension Fund. And I think that we, even as members of Parliament, We are very concerned. Many of us are, I'm luckily not one of them quite yet, but many of us are reaching retirement age. And people are deeply concerned. Honourable Pando, you're nowhere near retirement age yet. But I think that it's fair for us to say that we are concerned, and we should be concerned for all our fellow government employees. Deputy President, I'd like you to give an assurance to this House today that under no circumstance will the Government Employee Pension Fund be used or be allowed to be used, regardless of the rules of the pension fund, to bail out any of the embattled state-owned entities, because that is the threat that's being made, and it's something that worries not only us as 400 MPs, but thousands of people across the country who are going to count on this pension fund to be their security in their old age. So we need you as leader of government business to give us the assurance that this pension fund won't be used to bail out a state-owned entity.
The Honourable, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What I think one can say is that clearly the GPEF, the Government Employees Pension Fund, which is managed by the PIC, will always make sure that the funds of the pension fund contributors are safe, are well managed, and as they have always been well managed, from time I became aware of the PIC. The PIC some years ago was just worth R500 million, and now it's well above $1 trillion and more, which tells me that they invest government employees' pension funds very wisely, and they've seen a great rise in that. And how do they invest those? They invest those through a number of companies where they invest money, and their investment strategy has always struck me as being very prudent, as being a well-managed type of investment house, because in the end, that's what they are. They have been managing, say, collectively our monies very, very carefully. And how do they do that? They buy shares in various companies listed on the stock exchange, some unlisted, and they also buy bonds. And sometimes when companies, private companies and state-owned enterprises issue bonds, they buy those because that is a store of a good investment return. Now, if a state-owned enterprise issues a bond and Sanlam, Old Mutual, or whoever, or some fund overseas buys a bond like that, the PIC, which manages our money, could also feel that they should also put some money in. And that, in my view, does not mean that they are bailing out state-owned enterprises. They are just merely investing, and if they invest in Eskom, they know that Eskom is a cash generator, and they are going to get their money back. It could be over a 10-year bond, 20-year bond, and they often take a long-term view of the money that they invest. And that is why the PIC's money, or the GPEF's money, runs into $1 trillion and more. So I do not share the same fear that you have, that our government employees' funds are going to be invested badly and they are going to be squandered. I think the PIC has distinguished itself as a very, very good money manager. So have faith, like I do, in the ability of the PIC and the Government Employees Pension Fund to manage our monies properly. They're also managing my money and yours, my pension money and yours. So relax and take this journey along with all of us. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Esther Raisin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Deputy President. I've also got concerns, Deputy President. The Government Employees Pension Fund must ideally hold approximately 1,600 billion rand in assets, which should be sufficient to cover its liabilities. These assets are managed by the PIC, the Public Investment Corporation that you just mentioned, which estimate now that should a fund theoretically be required to fulfill its obligation, the assets are currently valued could only cover 79.3% of the liability. So I haven't got the same optimism as what you have. From 121% in 2014. Now, also, PIC gave, who gave the PIC permission to allocate 196 billion rand to SOEs, which also I haven't got the same optimism as what you have in ESCOM, for example. And why is that, sir? And will you tell government employees where their life-saving monies and pension monies are going to state-owned entities? And why does Regulation 28, which was created purposely to protect retirement fund members, not apply to the largest pension fund in South Africa, namely the Government Employees Pension Fund? Thank you, Minister.
Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, my optimism is still quite high, notwithstanding what you have said, that in 2014, the cover that they had was 120%, and now it could be 79 or 80. And if one were to look at the economics of it all, it's possibly a movement in investment. Right now, the stock market is on at a lower level. And in 2014, we were riding highs that many people had never seen before. But the important thing is that there is still a store of funds there. And the cover, I don't know what the actual cover ratio is, but the cover is still there as to be able to cover those who are right now pensionable. So if you were to look at the employees who are pensionable right now, or who can take pension, the GPEF would be able to cover its liabilities and obligations. And if you study the world of pension funds and these retirement companies, you'll find that sometimes they are below cover and sometimes they are above the cover, and they ride with the wave of how the market moves. So as long as they have a proper cover and there's prudency, I'm not too concerned about that. And I'm not so affair with Rule 28, but to the extent where it has to cover any liabilities, I think there is sufficient money in the GPEF to cover that. And maybe the Minister of Finance, who is in charge of all this, would be able to give you the full details of how well covered government employees are with regards to their pension fund. But I'm comfortable that they are, because there will never be a run by every government employee on their pension fund, where everybody says, now I'm retiring, even when they are 25 years old, give me my money. So we've got to ride the waves, and in the end, there will always be assurance that government employees will get their money. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, my question is twofold. One is, what level of oversight does government have with the pension savings of the state-owned employees? That's the first aspect. And the second one is, in terms of state employees who are reaching pensionable age, if you do become president, which I hope you would, what would you do? What would you do differently to ensure that these state-owned employees get added benefits like housing and other benefits which they don't enjoy presently? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The level of oversight that government has on, say, the PIC, clearly, as you know, is through Treasury. Government, in the end, make sure that through governance processes, the PIC has a board, a well-functioning board, and there are proper governance processes in the PIC itself. And the PIC, as you know, manages the GEPF, it manages the UIF funds and many others. So the Deputy Minister of Finance is the chairman of the PIC and therefore oversees in his fiduciary role and responsibilities the work of the PIC and make sure that the investment committee of the PIC functions well. So I'm satisfied with the level of governance within the PIC or over government employees' pension funds. It is there and it functions well. In relation to the issues such as housing, I think you are raising a very interesting matter. I visited Singapore a few months ago, and I found something that is really admirable. Government employees belong to a pension fund on a compulsory basis, and the contribution also helps them to get housing loans. And as a result, in Singapore, nearly all government employees have housing because they use their pension fund money as collateral, if you like, to get loans to be able to get houses. And that is a well-streamlined process which they have put in place over many, many years to a point where the housing of the people of Singapore is amongst the best in the world. And it is underpinned by their pension process. And by the way, every employee, whether privately employed or state employed, has to contribute to this national pension fund that helps everyone to have a store of wealth, and it helps them with accumulation of some assets. So what you're saying is very interesting. I think some pension funds in our country do help employees to utilize their funds in their pension fund as collateral for housing. And we've been looking at something similar in government, and I'm sure we will be advancing our thinking in that regard so that we can help as many people as possible when it comes to housing and obtaining a number of other assets. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 22, asked by the Honorable Kalako, the Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, the World Economic Forum on Africa, which was held in Durban in May of this year, attracted a number of participants from many countries. And some of the participants were heads of government, investors, policymakers, and top business people and entrepreneurs. Civil servants were also in the mix, and people from civil society were also participants. Once again, Team South Africa distinguished itself extremely well. Team South Africa, consisting of government, labor, business, and civil society, was able, Madam Speaker, to effectively use World Economic Forum Africa as a platform to position South Africa as a destination for both business and investment. As in previous WEF events, South Africa was able to effectively present our country's economic strengths and engage meaningfully with various investors and government leaders from other countries in relation to the challenges that not only South Africa but the continent faces. In a global economic environment in which there is significant competition for investment as well as trade opportunities, the World Economic Forum has an essential role to play in exposing investors to what opportunities countries have to offer. And it is in this regard where South Africa was able to excel exceedingly well. Several other African countries have been effectively using the WEF to showcase their economies and their countries and to present to the world the great potential and the countless opportunities that their countries have. The WEF Africa meeting also provides an opportunity to deliberate on a number of issues, including challenges facing the continent at both economic and a social level, and the measures that we are taking to address them. There was a particular focus on creating conditions that are necessary for diversification of Africa's economies, the expansion of energy generating capacity, as well as the rollout of infrastructure throughout the continent in the form of roads, in the form of railways, as well as building waterways. South Africa's experience in its renewable energy independent power producers program was considered with particular interest by a number of investors. I mean, they could not stop talking about the excellent level of proficiency that we have reached in this regard. A need was identified for the development of policies that deepen Africa's financial markets, and a consistent theme throughout the meeting was the role that research and innovation could play in stimulating economic growth. And in this regard, Madam Speaker, we were able, as South Africa, to showcase what our country is doing in relation to innovation, in relation to creativity at the science and technology level. As a consequence, there was much emphasis on improving also education outcomes. So all in all, Madam Speaker, the WEF is a great forum. It's an oasis for great ideas. It's an oasis where people go to have contact, and having had contact, to move to contract with a number of investors that one finds there. And we have found it to be most useful, and it's a breeding ground for great economic opportunities for our country. And we will continue to participate. And the great thing is that when we all go as Team South Africa, business, labor, and government and civil society, we speak with one voice. We are united, and all of us read from the same script. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Kalako.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Deputy President, thank you for your answer. Following from what you have said, Africa is positioning itself as an investment destination. What are the plans added on what you have said, as you have elaborated on what this government is doing? What are the plans and programs that are coordinated by Southern African countries and Africa at large in order to take advantage of the opportunities created by hosting World Economic Forum? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
We have, Madam Speaker, a plethora of plans. And the one other good thing is that as African countries, particularly Southern African countries, we've tended to approach the WEF in a collective way, where we all promote one another, where we speak positively about our region, and where we try to demonstrate to the world that we are moving more and more towards integration in relation to trade, the movement of goods and services right across the region, where we are focusing on infrastructure, and we showcase projects such as the INGA project, where we will be generating energy for the region, not only so much for the DRC, and where, as we work together and invest together, we are able to reach high levels of great cooperation. And Madam Speaker, if there is an area where the region can cooperate effectively around, it is through investment and trade, and in investment, particularly in infrastructure, where we were able almost to speak with one voice with the investors. We were able to show them that in areas such as tourism, which is a great job creator, that when people from outside our region and the continent come, they should look at us, not so much only at South Africa, but look at us as a region, where the region as a whole has so much to offer on tourism, on investment, and the energy story as well is a great one, and innovation. The Minister of Science and Technology will tell you that she participates with a number of other ministers who deal with innovation and science from the region and indeed from the continent. So these forums are able to get us to cooperate in a way that gives us a number of great opportunities. So the WEF lends itself as a very, very good oasis for investment opportunities. Thank you.
The Honorable Kado.
Deputy President, addressing the media at the World Economic Forum on Africa earlier this year, you said that Africa needed selfless and accountable leaders who would lead this continent on a developmental trajectory. My question to you, Deputy President, is do you regard President Zuma as a selfless and accountable leader who is able to steer South Africa along a developmental path? And how does your party plan to institutionalize the ideal of selfless and accountable leadership in the state, which the former public protector found had been captured by the Gupta family? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Now, as you might well know, President Zuma has been honored by the continent to chair the infrastructure development trajectory of the continent. Now, the continent did out of an informed realization of how South Africa, as led by President Zuma, has been able to change the infrastructure trajectory of our country and move it forward. And you look at the record that has been achieved, the infrastructure layout and development that has taken place in our country in recent years is second to none on the continent. It's second to none. And I think let us give due regard and respect where it is due. Where it is due, let us give it. And no, I think you better listen. You may want to condemn President Zuma for a whole number of things and so forth, but I think we should also focus on what our country has achieved. It has achieved a phenomenal amount of progress, and African leaders recognize that, they've seen that, and that is why they appointed President Zuma to be the champion, listen to this, the champion of infrastructure development on the continent. Yeah? So I think recognize that. And how do we plan to institutionalize good leadership? The governing party has its own processes. Like any other party, like your party has its own processes. They may be great, they may be weak, they may be flawed, but I'm the last one to condemn you for the processes that you have in your party, which I may think are really, really bad and rotten. But I will not do so. And similarly, give recognition to the governing party that as a governing party, as a living organism that deals with its problems and challenges, it has a plethora of wise men and women who know how to chart the party forward. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Filtane.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Deputy President. Deputy President, through you, Chair, if I was present at this conference, I would have felt ashamed as a South African when the Department of Public Works made a trip to China just to get a paltry $4 million for its programs. Now, think about that. It's a world forum. There's South Africa going to China to get $4 million a shame. Now, compare that with the situation whereby there's very little intra-Africa trade. We jump the oceans and we go to other countries overseas. Now, was youth unemployment at its height foregrounded at this forum, this World Economic Forum, which is South Africa's biggest problem? Question that I want to put to you in closing is, why not overhaul our entire education curriculum so as to produce qualified and skilled entrepreneurs, not employees of the future, entrepreneurs? Why not do it soon? In your principal response, you did say that you touched on that. My question, the point of emphasis here is what is holding the current government from doing that soon rather than talking about it over a long period of time? In closing, ocean economy has been spoken about by your government since 2005, but the first significant action was only taken about a year or so ago. Why take so long for such important changes that are needed? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
That is a mouthful of issues, Honorable Filtane, but I'll try to answer them. I think we should not look down on efforts that are made by our colleagues, even if they go to China or any country and come back with $4 million. $4 million in our life is 4 times almost 13.5 or 13.6. And that is a start. I was told that this was a start, and this is like lento bayibiza ukuthi uvula umlomo. Uvula ngayo umlomo, and thereafter kuzawulandela enye imali ngaphezu kwaleyo. So don't look down upon initiatives like that. When it comes to the youth employment, one of the things that we are focusing on as government is the employment of young people. We are very much alive to the fact that many of our young people are unemployed. Up to 60% of young people are unemployed, and we are very much alive to it. And that is why we are forming partnerships with those who would be able to create jobs for young people. Our state-owned enterprises are opening up opportunities for learnerships and mentorship. So that is being done. We are appealing to the private sector to do the same. We are working and finalizing a project through which 1 million young people will be brought into learnerships and mentorships by a number of companies throughout the country over a 3-year period. That is 330,000 every year for the next 3 years, which can also be rolled out in the coming years. Now, that should never be looked down upon. So we are making every effort. If you talk to any of the ministers, people who sit on the cabinet here, they will tell you that they have youth employment project focused initiatives so that they are working on trying to see how best young people can be brought into employment, into being introduced into the world of work. We are doing precisely that. Now, entrepreneurship is obviously a very important aspect of our economic trajectory. We're trying to promote entrepreneurship, the growth of entrepreneurs as much as we possibly can. But let's also be clear, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. So there are people that can be entrepreneurs. We want to create a conducive environment for them to be able to be creative, to become entrepreneurs and be successful entrepreneurs. The Department of Small Business is focusing on that. And some people have even said, introduce in the curriculum entrepreneurship as a discipline for learning. And I find that very attractive. I support it completely. And that matter is obviously going to be looked at. The oceans economy, I don't know how far you are from the ocean. Because if you are close to the ocean and the various nodal points in our country, remember we've got a 3,000 length ocean that surrounds our country. And in a number of the ports and harbors that we have, there's a lot of activity taking place. We're also focusing on aquaculture and a number of other disciplines that the ocean gives rise to. So much work is being done. Since we held our ocean economy Pakisa, it has spawned a number of initiatives, and we've got a number of investment opportunities. And Honorable Filtana, you will be pleased to hear that many of those are underpinned by dollars and pounds and Deutsche Marks. And people want to come and invest here, and not $4 million, $400 million and above. I thought that would make you smile, and I'm glad to have made you happy as I finalize answering your question. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Nkomo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Ndolibu Wangamandabo, Deputy President. Ndimasea. I think the Deputy President, Wamba Ngauri, you have made contacts and contracts in this World Economic Forum. Renere IFP Rikotodo Deba Kanar Kumbelo Wudzisauri. Now that matters have actually happened at that forum, and Richiko says South Africa, Richiko says Africa and the world at large, how will this forum, or how will they resolve some of the challenges which were addressed and some of the challenges which were actually brought forth Kaye forum? Rukombelo Wudzisanga showcasing is quite good, and to cover each other is quite good, where if it's about a particular country, we all gang up against whosoever and we talk on those matters. But the reality is that after the forum, Africa, because it's quite important for us to do that. Ndolibu.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Ndialibone masiari yabudi. Ndi libua mbudziso yabo ngauri ndikoibona ichikolingedza uri irise hapo ka uamba ngazvera zviwana ka hei World Economic Forum. Zvera zviwana ndi zwinji. Atingoda ngeno ndolugisa zote dziphendulo zote. Ndingakona uri ndivatalutshedze nga limwe ḓuvha uri hone ro wana mini ka hei World Economic Forum. Ngauri ndo amba ngauri vhathu kha dzi conference hedzi noni vha kona u ṱangana. Vha ri vho ṱangana vha ambisane, vha tshi fhedza u ambisana ri wane uri vha kona uri vha vhe na zwine vha zwi phetha vha ri hezwi ndi zwine ra ḓo kona u zwi ita, ri ḓo ḓisa tshelede ngafha hafha South Africa, ri khou ṱoḓa uri ri dzhene kha hei industry, i nga vha dzi mine, i nga vha dzi factory, i nga vha dzi energy dza ḓuvha kana dza muya, kha zwoṱhe zwezwo. Ndi zwinzhi zwe zwa ambiwa ngazwo kha hei World Economic Forum, zwine zwa vha zwithu zwavhuḓi kha riṋe vhathu vha fhano Afrika Tshipembe, zwine zwa ḓo kona uri zwi ise ikonomi yashu phanḓa. So ndi nga kona uri ndi vha ṱalutshedze nga tshifhinga tshiḓaho uri hone ro wana mini ngauri ari soko uya kha hedzi dzi conference u soko u sumbedza vhathu ro naka u swika gai ri ya ri tshi khou isa zwine ra nga kona u zwi ita navho uri ri sumbedzane uri economy yashu ri nga isa hani phanḓa. So when we go to these conferences, we just don't go to show our pretty faces. We go with a clear intention of winning business opportunities, investment opportunities for our beloved Republic of South Africa. We don't just go to meet people and have meals and drink wine. We are focused on winning investment opportunities. So in time, I'll be able to showcase to you some of those. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 23, asked by the Honorable, the Reverend Mishwe, to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Mishwe, the ongoing revelations about allegations of corporate capture of public institutions, Reverend Mishwe, have undoubtedly and understandably undermined public confidence in our country, our country's leaders, and our institutions. That we have to admit. And they've tended to erode confidence. That too we must admit. It is therefore essential that these allegations, as I said, are thoroughly investigated as a matter of urgency through a comprehensive and transparent and credible process. As I indicated earlier, this should include the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry. Allegations of criminal conduct should also be investigated by the relevant law enforcement agencies so that the law can take its course without any fear or favor. Efforts to promote ethical moral leadership, which is what you asked, needs to be strengthened throughout the country. This is an ongoing process that requires the attention of all of us, not just a select few people. Each one of us, you and I, are included in this. In fact, you will find honest, capable, and committed leaders across South African society, in all communities, in all sectors, in government, as well as in the political sphere. There are leaders who are doing excellent work to build a better South Africa and to improve the lives of our people. These include elected officials. They also include public servants, community leaders, civil society activists. And now is the time for these people to come to the fore and to get engaged in what we call active citizenry, as called for also by the National Development Plan. They must speak out against practices that undermine one of our key values, which is the rule of law, the integrity of our public institutions, and they must be responsible for the use of public resources. They need to work to expose wrongdoing, ensure accountability, and where necessary, take whatever corrective measures that are necessary. These leaders need to demonstrate to our people that there are ethical leaders in this country who are prepared to take up their interests and concerns. These leaders need to give our people a good measure of hope and encouragement in their ability to lead from the front with honesty and integrity. This is not a responsibility that can fall on one person. It falls on all our shoulders. It falls on all of us who are sitting here. And it is a responsibility which I'd like to suggest we should take seriously as elected leaders of our people. That's what we need to demonstrate. Thank you.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker and Deputy President. We often hear of political leaders who step down from office due to scandals and corruption caused by their lack of moral integrity, particularly in the USA, Europe, Asia, and so on. But in Africa, this is not the case. Voters who do not seem to care about integrity in leadership allow corrupt leaders to remain in office. Our own government has ministers who also have allegations of corruption hanging over their heads, but who choose to remain in office. President Zuma, who is said to have about 783 allegations of corruption against him, is one example. During your days, Deputy President, as the leader of the student Christian movement in Teflup, you always insisted on ethical leadership. Is that still your position? If yes, how are you helping your colleagues in cabinet, including the president, to be bastion of ethical leadership? I'm sure you'll remember, Deputy President, that when Mr. Mandela was still the president, one day he challenged members of their house, and he said, young people out there need leaders of integrity, so members of parliament should be such. So my question to you about this is, are you willing to take that responsibility of challenging these members of parliament to be good role models to young people out there and always overcome the temptation to be corrupt? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, Reverend Michel came short of telling you that we were together at the University of the North. And I was the chairman of the Student Christian Movement, and he was my dedicated follower. Sorry for being flippant in the afternoon. Honorable Speaker and Honorable Michel, I'm able to confirm that yes, leaders should be ethical. Leaders should demonstrate their commitment to great values of integrity, and I would willingly, easily call upon all of us, not so much because, you know, of my position, but all of us collectively as equal members of parliament, that that is what we should be showcasing, particularly to the young people of our country. They should see in us as leaders that we are able to be ethical, we are willing and determined to do things correctly and live by the words that we pronounce. So that I am willing to pronounce quite openly, and I'm glad to see and know that you are also willing to move, to walk that road. So without any doubt, I'm willing to say precisely that, Reverend Misha. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mutau.
Deputy President Nda, let me see if we can put some flesh on this issue that you just raised. JZ 783, the infamous fraud and corruption charges still hang over the head of President Jacob Zuma. The stench of the Nkandla scandal refuses to go away. The devastating Concord judgment against the president remains a dark cloud over his misleadership. All these blemishes bear testimony to the absence of ethical, moral, and just leadership at the highest level in your government. Does the Deputy President believe South Africa can extricate itself from the ethical and moral decay highlighted by Mr. Kgalema Motlanthe with the current government leadership? If yes, how?
The Honorable Deputy President.
I think, Honorable Speaker, with great respect, thank you. I'd like to say that we should never try to be holier than thou, holier than other people. I think things like mishaps in ethical behavior can happen to anyone, can happen to any organizations. And when they do happen, clearly they need to be properly processed and addressed. And that is the important thing that we should focus on. And in the end, our commitment to the values that are clearly enshrined in our Constitution should be our lodestar. Our lodestar should be those values that we have all subscribed to, and do everything that we can to not only embrace them, but to live by them. And in doing so, all of us collectively as leaders, we should ensure that we give leadership to the country. Can we live up to that? I would say yes. Whenever, for instance, there have been problems, we should pick ourselves up and live up to those types of values, because the Constitution of our country has embedded in it those wonderful, great values that we should all daily, hourly, weekly subscribe to and live by. So, Honorable Mutau, I would invite you to take your Constitution, use it for bedtime reading, and make sure that it does continue to be the lodestar of your behavior and my behavior, and ensure that we have the South Africa of our dreams. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, I must agree with you. Yesterday, whilst we were paying tribute to the late Ahmed Muhammad Katrada, it was once again a day for grandstanding and politicking rather than paying tribute to a real leader. As if these challenges don't exist in other parties. And you know there's the latest, another corruption scam with computers in the Western Cape with Helen, so you know that. Honorable Deputy President, what happens in the African National Congress or any ruling party does have an impact on the country as a whole. Now, it is quite clear that today politics is about hunger, it's about thirst, it's about control, it's about power. That is what it is all about. Would government ever consider, not now, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, to have a more inclusive government that also attract members from other parties that have skills, and many of these parties do, so that you have a more inclusive government so that they can work together rather than shouting, screaming, and abusing each other, and put the interests of South Africans before their own? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Imam, if you look back in your history, and most recent history, you will find that the one and sole governing party that our country has had in the past 23 years has always sought to promote the unity of our nation, and has done this in very practical ways. It started off as a government of national unity, where it said, notwithstanding the fact that we've won the majority vote, we are going to invite other parties, even our opponents, to govern with us. And that served the country extremely well. And beyond that, it continued to invite members from other parties, leaders from other parties, to be in the executive, so that we not only give a semblance of national unity, but we actually live it, utilizing the talents, the capabilities of members from other parties, and include them together with members from the governing party to take our country forward. And that has served us extremely well. Now, that has been, if you like, the mantra of the governing party over the past 23 years. And going forward, there's nothing that stops the governing party of the African National Congress from continuing to do things like that, because our main aim is to unite all South Africans, to build a united nation, and to make sure that South Africa moves forward. And we would be willing to utilize the skills, the capabilities of South Africans right across the board, if it means taking our country forward. So yes, you want to watch this space, you can watch it. We will continue doing what is right for South Africa. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kloama.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, you sound like you are flogging a dead horse. The brutal truth is you are also losing your integrity. Can you break from the yoke the president has bound you? The president is frog marching us into a state of hopelessness. Why are you continuing to legitimize his failed leadership? Why do you allow the president to slowly to devour the values of which are enshrined in our constitution? Continuing to give the future of the country a death sentence. Deputy President, why are you allowing the president to turn you into an Aram scrap cell, Deputy President?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, I don't know what the actual question is. I don't have my Afrikaans dictionary today to remember what an Aram skepsel is. All I can say is that I'm not a skepsel. So I'm not an Aram skepsel. And that is the answer that I would be willing to give Honorable Ploama. Thank you very much.
We now come to the last question. Question number 24, asked by the Honorable Mnganga Tabashe. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, General Motors first conveyed its decision to withdraw from South Africa to the government on the 16th of May, 2017, and 2 days before the workforce was informed, and the company made a public statement to this effect. General Motors indicated at the time that the company was in advanced negotiations regarding the sale of some of General Motors' assets to Isuzu. General Motors' decision comes on the back of sustained efforts by government in recent years to assist the company. The company informs us that it has not performed well in the domestic market recently, both in terms of production and sales, the manner and the timing of the decision to withdraw from South Africa did not allow any meaningful intervention prior to the decision. Nevertheless, an urgent process has been put in place by the Department of Trade and Industry to engage both General Motors and Isuzu with a view to ensure everything possible is done to support the production of the Isuzu vehicles in South Africa. They will also explore the possibility that a new investor can take over the part of the General Motors facility not sold to Isuzu to produce other vehicles, possibly in another market segment or as a contract manager. An announcement will be made in this regard in due course. The lesson, Madam Speaker, which emerges from all this experience is that the global automotive industry is a highly dynamic and competitive market in which companies make decisions that are based on global strategies and considerations. We are told that the decision by General Motors is informed by its global strategy, which includes exiting other markets such as Australia and India. In an increasing competitive global market, countries compete for both investment and production in the context of decisions that are made by global manufacturers. This is precisely why government is engaged in an automotive policy review and strategy process where we are working closely with a wide range of companies and industry associations. This process will develop a post-2020 automotive master plan, which will serve before Cabinet later this year. And through this, we will be able to ensure that we have a master plan that will be able to serve the economy of our country in good measure. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mganga Tabashe.
Ngiyabonga somlomo ohloniphekile walendlu ehloniphekile. Ngizibongele nakusekela mongameli ohloniphekile ngempendulo yakhe anginikeza yona. Kodwa ke sekela mongameli, yini enye engenziwa uhulumeni ukusiza bonke abasebenzi abangase noma balahlekelwe imisebenzi ngenxa yokuthi asibanga khona isikhathi esanele sokuxoxisana cephelezi ama negotiations? Honorable Deputy President, is there any penalty to this company for such a behavior within the automotive industry policy to prevent, or any existing policy related to that, to prevent a repeat of the similar situation? Ngizibongele somlomo mama.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Ngiyabonga, Madam Speaker. Mangithi le ngxaki esibhekane nayo yokuthi i-General Motors ivale imisebenzi yayo or ithengise ibhizinisi yayo izenza ukuthi abasebenzi abaningana balahlekelwe imisebenzi. Into esiphatha kabi ke leyo ngoba into esifunayo ukuthi abasebenzi ba kuleli lakithi bangalahlekelwa imisebenzi. Inyunyani yabo inumsa okwamanje ikhulumisana nayo i-General Motors ukubonisana ukuthi kungenzwani ukuthi le misebenzi eminingi bakuthiwe mhlambe kungaba 900 yabasebenzi ukuthi ingalahleki yonke. Uhulumeni wona through i-Department of Labor uzozama ukuthi labasebenzi abazolahlekelwa imisebenzi bathole ezinye indlela, mhlambe bangaqeqeshwa kwezinye i-skills abangahle bangene kuzo ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi baye kwezinye indawo bathole imisebenzi. Kona okukhona ukuthi uma iSuzu izothenga lenqe enye yale factory mhlawumbe kuzawuba ngconywana, mhlawumbe ngeke abasebenzi abaningi balahlekelwe imisebenzi. When it comes to the issue of a penalty, I don't know if my colleagues in trade and industry have given consideration to this. It's certainly something, because I think our main complaint about this is that the shortness of the notice that was given to us, firstly as government and thereafter to the union, is something that does not sit comfortably with us. Because much as it is a decision that is taken after global investment and manufacturing or production considerations, it is something that General Motors has been talking about over a long time in their own boardrooms and a number of other structures. To spring this on us with a consequence of almost 900 people losing their jobs is something that we should feel we are unhappy about. And I think from what you are saying, it's something that we should safeguard ourselves against. That there should be some measure of a protection that we should give once to ourselves, but particularly to workers. That things like these need to be done with a pre-notice, pre-warning, so that people have an opportunity of rearranging their own lives and rearranging work opportunities that they may well have. And therefore, I think maybe in the master plan agreement, it's something that needs to be looked at. I am certainly open that we should examine that because it isn't correct that a decision is taken and imposed on us. Within 2 days, then it's announced, and it destabilizes the lives of so many people And in the end, the vulnerable workers who have nothing else to tend to find themselves in the street. It is certainly an idea that I think we should take forward. Ngiyakubonga ke ukuthi lo mbono ubeke etafuleni, ngiyathemba ukuthi sikakwazi ukuthi sibhekisane ngawo. Ngiyabonga.
The Honorable Kachalia.
The fact of the matter, Deputy President, notwithstanding the spin the minister has put on the matter of GM, General Motors' withdrawal from the country and echoed by you, is evidenced by General Motors' own media statement, which says, and I quote, "We determined that the continued or increased investment in manufacturing in South Africa would not provide General Motors the expected returns of other global investment opportunities. It is therefore as clear as mud that GM has lost all faith in South Africa's economy under President Zuma and Minister Davis. Does the Deputy President agree that General Motors' decisions are directly attributable to the mismanagement of our economy by the ANC and its president? And what, if anything, does the Deputy President choose or intend to do about this?"
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, I think it is really hugely dishonest to ascribe General Motors' departure or intention to depart or sale of their business to the way the governing party is managing the economy. They have done exactly the same thing with India and Australia. Maybe Honorable Kachalia will announce here and now that that too is due to the mismanagement of the Indian economy and the Australian economy by those governments. I want to know whether he's willing to do that. I think it is really cheap, it is dishonest to be making such a statement. I think if you want to ascribe any fault to the way, yes, we're managing the economy, I think you should not choose this one. You can choose many others. And that having been said, South Africa stands out throughout the world as one of the best investment destinations for the automotive industry. We have in this country Mercedes-Benz, we have in this country Toyota, we have in this country BMW, we have in this country, you name them, they all come here. Why do they come here? They come here because we've created a good investment climate, an environment. They also come here because we've got skilled workers. The workers in the automotive industry in this country, they build and create the best Mercedes-Benzes that are exported to the United States, my friend. That is what we do in this country. And in a number of cases, they've won awards that far exceed even German workers. South African workers go to Germany to go and showcase their capability in creating a very good Mercedes. I don't know what car you drive. Maybe if you drive a BMW and a Mercedes car, you will know that it's been built by South African workers, and it is a very good car. So we have a very good investment climate, and none of the automotive investors will ascribe those types of reasons that you are putting forward to their investment decisions. This country offers the best investment environment for automotive matters. I want you to remember that. Thank you.
The Honorable Esther Raisin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, I agree GM's decision to withdraw was purely a business cutback from their part. As a matter of fact, the automobile industry is by far receiving more grants and more incentives than any other industry in South Africa, so I have to agree with you. The MIDP, the Motor Industrial Development Program, is also a success in this country. But you will agree, sir, the excessive cost of vehicle cuts across not only families, but also through the industry, because every business needs vehicles to do their business. Why then allow mostly middle-class taxpayers to maintain the industrial list huge profit margins? And I will give you an example. The automotive and industrial policy, which forces us to pay nearly double the international market price for vehicles and prohibits South Africa to import cheaper, in other words, used roadworthy vehicles from overseas. And why do we pay import duties and on taxes and then taxes again on the duties for car accessories? Government will impose a 100%...
Honourable Member, your time for the follow-up question has expired. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I did not finally get the drift, but the drift I got were on two issues. Maybe the first suggestion I'd like to make to Honorable Esterhazy is that maybe he should find time, and with great thanks and respect, to have a coffee with Honorable Kachalia and explain to him in really simple terms how good our auto industry is. Because Honorable Kachalia does not seem to get it. And I think it needs a person like you who has grasped the importance of our auto industry to explain to him. And Honorable Esterhazy, I got the drift of what you were raising, the issue of the high taxes, the issue of the excessive prices of our vehicles. And that's certainly something that obviously can be looked at. The Department of Trade and Industry would, in my view, be willing to look at the tax structure around the vehicles. And I think it can be said that the vehicles in our country tend to be quite expensive, whereas they are cheaper in other countries, I have found. So it's something that can elicit a conversation with the Minister of Trade and Industry. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Mbata.
Mr. Ramaphosa, I will put it to you that the decision, or one of the decisions that warrant General Motors to leave may not necessarily be economical, it may be political. General Motors is expanding in America, and they are coming back to the local territory, which is basically, as an American company, they want to increase American jobs. Now, my question is, we have hoisted them for years. In fact, they were hoisted by the apartheid government before a democratic order. We have awarded them incentives worth millions. I would like to know what were the conditions of these incentives? Because these are public funds aimed at stimulating growth, job creation, and making the relationship between South Africa and these companies mutual. It cannot be that out of those agreements, somebody can just pack and go unilaterally.
The Honourable, the Deputy President.
I didn't quite get the question, but the tail end of it, the tail end of it.
Can I repeat the question?
No.
Yeah, but why you say
no,
you can't get the
Honourable
question?
Mbata. Honourable Mbata, please. Proceed, DP.
The gist of what he was asking, as I understood it, was the terms of the agreements that we have with these automakers who get such incentives and subsidies from us, and that it should not be acceptable that they unilaterally just up and go. That's how I understood it. And I think the answer should be, I mean, clearly the terms of those agreements is a matter that needs to be looked at very closely, and Trade and Industry can enlighten us on that. And possibly, maybe we had never really countenanced the fact that any of these investors that we are giving incentives to would just up and go, just suddenly. And maybe that has not been fully covered. The experience that we now have is going to enlighten us and wisen us, or make us wiser when it comes to having to deal with the master plan that we are working on to 2020. So those are the types of considerations that we are going to have in mind, and we are going to want to protect our workers, to protect the industry, and also to protect the investment that we are making, because we are, if you like, co-investors in this industry, because they get subsidies, they get a lot of assistance, and through that they are then able to make these cars and make a profit. So we also need to look at how we can protect ourselves as workers and as a country. So thank you very much, Honorable Mbata. We'll take it up. Thank you.
That concludes questions to the Deputy President. I thank the Honorable Deputy President. That also concludes the business for the day, and the House is adjourned.